What a chapter. We finally solve the mystery behind the baffling death of Sokka. A bullet went straight through his brain. What's up, boys and girls? Let's get straight to this week's chapter. We begin with Stussy informing Sentomaru that Kizaru is on his way to Egghead. She knows, since CP0 were meant to wait for him after killing Vegapunk. The government sees this as a more dire situation than Ohara. Let's take a step back to remember that incident. The scholars in Ohara were studying the poneglyphs and they discovered the existence of an ancient kingdom and even knew its name. For that alone, they received a buster call from the government that obliterated the island and everyone there. Almost everyone. But Vegapunk has even further knowledge, plus hyper-advanced technology and an army of human weapons. So we should expect a much bigger blow, a bigger tragedy. And it's happening in real time, not in a flashback. I'm gonna speculate more about how the events may unfold at the end of the video. Well, Sentomaru will notify Stussy when the enemies approach, but the communication with the rest is cut off. Let's see if that plays a role. We then jump to Frankie's group. He's the only one who can still fight, and I like his determination even with one hand. We see a snake seemingly sending Pythagoras to meet Sokka in robot heaven, or they will just be repaired. Maybe that was the point of showing Atlas replace her face after Lucci beat her up. However, a snake leaves the petrified Straw Hats and Lilith alive and walks away, if I understand correctly. What are her orders exactly? Or did she think that they will die from the explosion? Cut to Chopper, Robin and Atlas wandering around, worrying about their friends. I like that Robin has faith in Sanji, just like Sanji had faith in her, saving him from Black Maria back in Wano. Robin, being the smart lady that she is, understands that this situation could be a distraction from the mastermind to do something to Vegapunk's main body. Well, he did get captured, but the perpetrator kept him alive. Atlas suggests going to investigate an old lab that has been sealed off for a while because she has some suspicions. I guess this explains why the Cypherpol agents weren't discovered, or why there is not any surveillance down there. It was abandoned. So this group is heading down to Vegapunk's location where a murder took place. Next, we have Nami's group, and it looks like Edison is the newest member to join the Dead Club. That's 3 out of 6. And also Lilith is petrified. So only Atlas is still in good health. But yeah, three of them are dead. Speaking of the dead, Brook is showcasing his ability to control his soul so he can scout the area more efficiently. You know, passing through walls and stuff. Like when he did in Fishman Island, or more recently in Wano when he found the Road Poneglyph in the Kokeshi doll room. Sanji continues his fight against Jinbei Jr. and what the f? He's tanking hits with his face. My boy Blackleg Sanji doing the nothing happened pose. Pretty cool. Like in the last chapter, his eyebrow is pointing in the opposite direction, looking like his Vince Smoke siblings. That's why he's eating punches without flinching, because after wearing the raid suit against Queen, he awakened something inside him. Something like the exoskeleton the other Power Rangers in his family possess, which raises their toughness. Although Sanji claims this is the power of love, I just had a terrifying thought pop into my brain. Imagine that the power, the highly sought after dynamic ancient power that can move the Iron Giant, is love. Sanji is the only one fighting a Seraphim by himself, and additionally he doesn't even know about the secret of the flame on their back. So it will be interesting to see how this fight goes. Doesn't seem very hopeful. The action doesn't stop there, however. We also see Luffy and Zoro, who, in contrast with Sanji's coolness, seem flustered. The reason for that is the flames on the back of the Seraphim won't go out. I mean, Zoro, you had the chance last chapter when Mihawk's flame went out, but you didn't take it. But can the Seraphim extinguish the fire whenever they want? Is it a conscious decision? If that's the case, they can just choose to keep it going. You know, sacrifice some speed and mobility, and in exchange become immortal. That's not a bad deal. There should be a time limit, because remember Lilith said, if only there was an undying flame, implying that it doesn't exist yet. I know she was talking about regular fire, but still, nothing lasts forever, even One Piece. Luffy, like a great captain, orders Usopp to follow Zoro so he won't get lost. We're getting more and more separated. Luffy insists on hitting Kuma Boy and putting out the fire himself. Could that be actually possible? Lucci certainly doesn't think so. To be honest, I'm kinda surprised we haven't seen Luffy trying to blow it out with a Gomu Gomu balloon or something. As we pan out to the Paw Room, P-A-W, and while we see Bonnie crying, witnessing the terrible events that plagued her father's past, the narrator jumps in to spoil the story. He says that we're one day away from the famous Egghead incident. This incident was set in motion 3 months ago when someone made a call to Mary Joa. We overhear the conversation between this snitch and the Gorosei, and it is revealed that Vegapunk is researching about the Void Century. So the government sends CP5, 7, 8, and after they disappeared, CP0 is dispatched to assassinate Vegapunk. But it doesn't stop there, of course. Saint J. Garcia Saturn, along with Kizaru and a fleet of ships, is also heading to Egghead, because the government expected war. They didn't expect the Straw Hats to show up though. It's fate, like Vegapunk repeatedly said. But wasn't it like a 33% chance for them to come here after Wano? Anyway, the narrator keeps building up the hype and climaxes by declaring that the outcome of this incident will shock the world. No one saw that coming. When he says that, he obviously means shocking to the One Piece world, not us necessarily. Like the death of a Straw Hat. But at the same time, Oda is speaking through the narrator. Therefore, it must be a mix of both. So, let's go over some shocking scenarios. The Straw Hats fail, and the government succeeds in killing all Vegapunks. But right before the main Vegapunk dies, he sends a final message to the world and reveals information about the ancient kingdom. He could, for example, say its name, like his good friend Professor Clover tried to do, but failed. He can achieve this with a livestream Den Mushi that can broadcast across the world, that was introduced in Film Red. All this according to the wiki, I haven't seen the movie. But I'm not sure that it is canon. But if it is shocking to the entire world, there has to be a means through which the world gets the news. Right? And of course the government wouldn't print an article about this, but we did see Big News Morgan's recently, and he was going to print something about Luffy holding Vegapunk hostage and going to war with the government. Maybe that plays a role. Let's think about another incident that shocked the world, and maybe we can make some parallels. The Marineford War was shocking because on one hand, one of the emperors failed to save one of his crewmates and died. But on the other hand, because Blackbeard showed up out of nowhere at the end and did something that was considered impossible. He consumed 2 devil fruits, and after that, maddened by his newfound powers, tried to destroy Marineford and declare that this is his era. Oh, and Whitebeard announced that the One Piece is real. In other words, we had significant deaths and an unprecedented event, a twist at the end. Let's apply this to our scenario. I'm gonna go step by step. Saturn, Kizaru, and the Vice Admirals reach the island. One of the first things they do must be that Saturn takes command of the Seraphim. All the Seraphim are still operating, but there's a day in between, so maybe at least some of them would go out by then. But besides that, he should be able to also command the 50 MK3 Pacifistas that Sentomaru released. So they have one of the Gorosei, an Admiral, Vice Admirals, 4 Seraphim, 50 improved Pacifista, and also York, who has control over the island's technology, is on their side. Now, if you think about all these forces, the Straw Hats, plus Stu, Chicago, and Lucci, realistically don't stand a chance. Unless reinforcements arrive, but we'll get that later. The government's goal is to kill all Vegapunks, but I'm sure they also want Luffy dead. It's similar to Marineford. The government wanted Ace and Whitebeard dead at first, but at some point they realized that Luffy needs to die too. And in Marineford, they achieved their initial goal, but Luffy escaped. Well, Ace had to make the sacrifice, plus a third party came to their rescue. Law with his submarine. This begs the question, who's willing to die here so the rest can escape? If we're assuming the government will win, all Vegapunks will die. And Stussy seems quite loyal to them, so I can see her staying behind. How about Kaku and Lucci have a redemption arc? Not very likely. There's also Bonnie on the island, and I'm certain she hates the government more than anyone else right now. She could incapacitate people temporarily by turning them into babies. However, the best use of her ability would have been to turn the Seraphim into adults, as allies. But they are on the enemy side, unfortunately. You know who else is on the island somewhere? Caribou. I refuse to believe he won't do anything. He could assist in escaping with his Devilfruit power, because, as we saw in Fishman Island, when he kidnapped the mermaids, he's capable of storing people inside him. But how are they getting out of the island? In Marineford, as I said before, we had Law's submarine that went underwater and they fled to safety. In this case, there is Vega Force 1. We know it can't fly outside Egghead, but it can go underwater, as we saw in the beginning of the arc. But we're missing an unprecedented event, like Blackbeard eating 2 devil fruits. You know, if we're gonna make the connection to Marineford, which of course is completely arbitrary on my part. What if Jake Garcia's Saturn falls in the battlefield and the government pins this on Luffy, saying that he wants to take over the world or something, like Rox Dizebek? And of course the propaganda was that he was the one that captured Vegapunk, so the people would think that he killed him too, the most beloved scientist in the world. And finally, I can see a scenario where reinforcements arrive to either aid with the escape or to actually have a victory against the government forces. And the possible allies that will come as reinforcements, in my opinion, are the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. They are supposed to be important figures in a major incident. Of course, I always thought that this would be the final war at the end of the series. I guess we're close to the end. Or the Cross Guild. I don't really have a good reason for that, but they were introduced in this arc, and their purpose in the story is nebulous. Another strong individual that could help would be Scopper Gaban, if he was the character that Shanks was talking about. And Elbaf should be close enough so he can make the travel in one day. But he's just one guy. I guess this could be similar to the Rayleigh situation in Sabode. That's it, I'm out of ideas. At last, we solve the mystery of who the culprit is behind Vegapunk's disappearance and all the other bullshit. It's York! Of course I knew that. I was expecting it all along. I actually thought that it couldn't be one of the Vegapunks because of Punk Records. We were told by Vegapunk himself that every day all the satellites sync their experiences through Punk Records. So I jumped to the conclusion that they are incapable of keeping secrets from one another, since, they share the same fucking brain. Well, fuck me, I guess. This traitor managed to do it. And why did she do all this? To become a celestial dragon. It does make sense, since York represents greed, although Vegapunk acts infuriated. But doesn't that mean he also desires that, deep down, considering York is an aspect of his personality? We should have suspected York, because every betrayal in the story came from a woman. You don't believe me? Let's see. Nami, when she took Mary and left. Cornice in Skypiea. Robin in Water 7. Viola in Dressrosa. Pudding in Whole Cake Island. And finally, Kanjuro in Wano. Wait, what? But all the girls that I mentioned had a noble goal, a pure justification for their actions. Except Kanjuro. Fuck that guy. So maybe York also does. Also has something else in mind. Maybe it is part of her elaborate plan to achieve world peace, the true goal of Vegapunk. I mean, can someone even become a celestial dragon? Isn't the whole point of being a celestial dragon that you are born a celestial dragon? You are the descendant of the creators of the world, because of your blood, your heritage. Also, CP0, when they were discussing the mission on their ship, they said they were going to eliminate all of the Vegapunks. So what's the deal? Perhaps York is keeping the other agents captive as a bargaining chip, but I'm sure the government wouldn't bat an eye exterminating all of them. Another obstacle for York becoming a celestial dragon is the brain of Vegapunk. Doesn't she need to be close to Punk Records to receive the brain waves? How could she go and live in Merizoa, let's say? I'm questioning the logistics, but who cares, huh? If you made it this far, please comment down below. I reached Raftel. not Laughtail, Raftel. And you can join a raffle to win a brand new appreciation from me. Peace.